Ladies and gentlemen of the American Jury and Bulldog Nation, I have railed against the system and the Dr. Durrani litigation over and over and over. And some of the things that have happened to these victims after Durrani and the hospitals let it all happen with the system is just simply incredulous. It's unbelievable. It's also unforgivable. We filed 40 affidavits of disqualification against Dr. Durrani, 6 against Maureen O'Connor. And if you go back and you read what's in each of those things, it'll blow your mind. It's why we're writing a book and we're producing a documentary, which is in full-blown production. When the world hears this story, it's going to be like, what? Let me tell you the latest. On Friday, Alex Battaglia, an attorney at Deters Law, filed an affidavit of disqualification. And I want to stress, I am doing this video today as a member of Bulldog Media, as Joe Q. Citizen. I'm not doing this video in any capacity as my job at Deters Law. I'm doing this in my individual First Amendment right capacity. So, on Friday, they filed an affidavit of disqualification of Judge Guy Reese, who took over from Judge Schweikert. There was some hope based upon the way he tried cases before he took over that maybe things would change. Nothing's changed. He ordered group trials and he changed his mind. Then he blames COVID, like, oh, having one more plaintiff in the courtroom is going to make a difference. But here, and I'm going to put this up on the screen, Exhibit 1 are motions which set and set and set. What happened is we filed motions after the court verdict, and they've sat there and sat there and sat there. And then, you ready for this? The straw that broke the camel's back? Scott Engel, a law clerk who's not a judge, actually questioned during a Zoom hearing Alan Statman, the lead trial lawyer for us. He actually questioned him at the hearing like he was the judge. And then when we got the order, it was actually signed by Scott Engel for the judge. And the date on the order, there was 3 different dates. Like, well, when did you decide this? There was 3 different dates on it, crossed out. I mean, it's outrageous. A law clerk playing judge. We're doing a Freedom of Information Act request and probably a lawsuit. We're going to get to the bottom of it. We think Scott Engel, who was Schweikert's lackey, has actually been playing judge. You can't make it up. Now, I want to put up on the screen page 3. I want to point something out here. After a jury verdict, you have to submit a judgment entry memorializing that verdict. It triggers the appeal time and everything else. As soon as these trials were over, we submitted right away, because we won them, a judgment entry. Guess what? When we lose a trial, they sign them right away. We submitted judgment entry. Are you ready for this? Reset on these suckers, some for over a year. So you know what? That delayed the appeal time for the defense to appeal our wins. Then, after he finally signed these, he then allowed them to file motions to throw out the verdict, which isn't going to happen, to throw out the verdict after the fact. I mean, this is criminal. This is so bad. This is like judicial malpractice, judicial malice. It's off the charts. Now I want to put up a reference list of outstanding trial issues. Judge Reese set for 718 days. See, after the verdict, we would file something called motion for prejudgment interest for their failure to make any offer and attorney fees. We had a right to do that, okay? In the McCann case, Judge Reese set on that motion for 718 days delaying the appeal time because that motion has to be ruled on before the appeal. In Mindorf, he sat on it for 465 days. In the Mann case, 500 days. The Yackel case, 500 days. The Honcho case, 452 days. Folks, they have to pay these verdicts when the appeal is over. What Judge Reese did was delay the appeal process by over a year in each of these cases. Stratman, 464 days. Green, 414 days. Stevenson, 351 days. Potts, the $39 million verdict, 499 days. Nichols case, 500 days. Roseberry, 500 days. COVID, there's been no trial since February. So Judge Reese is assigned these cases. There's no trials, nothing else going on. He's sitting up at his house in Columbus. No, can't make these decisions. It's criminal. And you know why this stuff happens? Because judges have immunity from being sued. This is awful. Then he claims, we have filed over and over again, that he would consider fraud. Now, Judge Crawford, who was a visiting judge on one case, the Adams case, Judge Crawford said, I don't understand why Judge Schweikert isn't allowing you all to bring in all of your fraud claims. Let me explain. We have hundreds of clients who will all say that Durrani's told them that they were going to be paralyzed or in a wheelchair or their head was going to fall off. They didn't have these surgeries. That's fraud. Well, you're allowed to show the pattern of fraud. So, although we have fraud, now if you're on a jury, we've had juries sit there and say, well, I just couldn't believe he'd ever do that. Do you think the jury would believe it if they heard from 5 or 10 of our other clients? If the judge instructed them, listen, there's 100 other people that said this, I'm going to let you hear from 5 of them. Do you think that would make a little bit of difference on the fraud? So we have to plead fraud, but then they stop us from being able to prove fraud. Judge Crawford, Reese actually said, Judge Crawford keeps telling me I should change my ruling on that, but he won't change it. He won't change Schweikert's ruling on that. Now, here's another one. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 cases against Christ, Good Sam, and Riverview Hospital, where Judge Schweikert entered an order where he said, we are allowed to take the depositions of the medical executive committee, the credentialing committee, and the hospital boards, trustees. We're allowed to take their depositions. He had this order. It was probably one of the few orders that was favorable to the plaintiffs. He entered that order all the way back on February 1st, 2019. We have asked repeatedly for Judge Reese to make that decision in these cases. Why? Because whoever wins has to appeal to the first district, or loses has to appeal to the first district court of appeals. It's one of those things that you're allowed to appeal first. He has sat on that for over a year in these cases. Just sits there. Doesn't issue a ruling. So on Friday, we have sent out an affidavit of disqualification to Judge Reese. We'll see what happens. But folks, this is unprecedented corruption by an entire civil justice system. There isn't a single rational American watching this, or lawyer or judge, that could sit there and say, well, there's good reasons for all. No, there's absolutely no rational, fair explanation for any of it. And you know what it is? They think people are going to sit back and just take it. We're supposed to sit back and take it. Remember, this litigation's going on over 8 freaking years. And they still do this to our wins. They've delayed the appeals by the other side of our wins for over a year. So you know what we did 2 weeks ago? We withdrew them. We said, hell with you. We're going to withdraw the motions, let the show get on the road. We've had enough. It's unbelievable. This is the Bulldog. Every dog has their day. Judge Reese is just Schweikert 2.0.